News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, Bitcoin enjoys plenty of demand at 98,000 as analyst eyes RSI breakout. Bitcoin payments aren't the future, they're already here. Also on today's show, a U.S. Senator encourages people to hold Bitcoin. Is a strategic Bitcoin reserve coming? All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. Today is February 6th, 2025. On today's show, Cynthia Lummis is talking about hodling Bitcoin. Does that mean a strategic Bitcoin reserve is coming? Interesting. Today, we have Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market going sideways once again. It seems about many weeks in a row now where almost about, first of all, since Trump's inauguration, which is currently the all-time high, and maybe a month and a half before that, since he was elected until now, we've been really trading within a pretty narrow range, about 5%, give or take, in between about 92,000 and realistically about 103,000. It spiked a bit to 108, 109. It tanked a bit to 91, even actually made it as low as 90 during the trade wars. But for the most part, within the 3 months, we've been really sitting at this point between, I would say even more narrow, about 95 to 105, about a $10,000 range, within about a 8% range. So I'm really expecting a breakout coming up soon, and a lot of people are also predicting a breakout. We are going to go into our crypto market watch and Bitcoin technical analysis. And we're going to get into our stories a little later. Right now, Bitcoin is sitting pretty much sideways at 97,500. XRP down 1.5% at $2.36. Ethereum down 2.5% at $27.26. Solana down 3% at $193. If we look at the crypto bubbles for the day, we have the big winners are not and far and few in between. We've got TRX up 5%, HTX up 5%, Move up 3%, Ultima up 3%, and everything else for the most part in the red. XCN seeing the biggest drop, which was for the month the biggest gainer. Pepe down 6%, Ondo 2.5%, Gala down 5%. Let's zoom out to the weekly, and most cryptos are down between 10 and 30%. We got Jasmine down 33%, Pepe down 30%, Doge down 23%. Gala 30%. The only winner here for the week is Ultima. So let's take a quicker peek at what it actually is. Yeah, that's a pretty expensive coin there. Interesting. I haven't really heard much about it, but it's sitting at $17,000. If I'm going to buy that, I think I'm going to keep my money in the biddy. Zooming out to the month, there's the XCN up almost 1,000%, Ultima up 112%, OM up 50%, but almost everything else, including the baby Pengu, down 70%. Let's get into the Bitcoin market cap. We have Bitcoin currently at $1.927 trillion, Ethereum at $328 billion, XRP $136 billion, Solana $94 billion, Doge $37.5 billion, Cardano $25 billion, Tron $20 billion. The current market cap compared to yesterday is almost identical. Yesterday was at 3.13 trillion. Today's at 3.12. We have Bitcoin dominance of 61.75%, the highest I've seen in a very, very long time. Ethereum at 10.5%. XRP at 4.37%, and Solana at 3%, falling back a bit. Currently, we are a 44 in neutral in the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. Yesterday was a 49. Last week was a 76. I've mentioned this before, and once we see this going into neutral or fear, we could definitely expect a pump in the Bitcoin market. Let's go into our Bitcoin halving countdown. We have approximately between 1,075 and 1,162 days left until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028. There are 167,367 Bitcoins left to mine until then, and until the year 2140, there are 1,179,272 coins left to mine in the total for all of the eternity of Bitcoin. Our market cap by company and commodity, we have gold up again at 19.386 trillion, Apple about sideways 3.5 trillion, Nvidia 3.15 trillion, who has flipped Microsoft again. Microsoft at 3 trillion even, Amazon at 2.51 trillion, Google at 2.353 trillion, Bitcoin 1.918, silver 1.842, Meta has finally flipped Saudi Aramco. Actually, what's happened here is both of them have flipped, Saudi Aramco and silver. So Saudi Aramco is now number 10. We've got silver number 8 at 1.8 trillion, Meta at 1.8, Saudi Aramco number 10 at 1.784, Tesla at 1.204, number 11 on the list. Currently you can get 1,025 Satoshis for one fiat US dollar. And in terms of the U.S. national debt stands at 36,447,443,000,000, which equals to, once again, we see this number has gone up 107,127 per citizen, and per taxpayer it's $323,046. Some interesting things happening in the crypto sphere. And again, I want to mention that things have been really trading in a very narrow range. So I would anticipate something interesting is going to happen soon. There's definitely a lot of bullish tenants going around. I see some other sides talking about, bearish outlook. But this is the year of the halving, and let's not forget. So I do anticipate that the biggest factor in this year's price is going to be the Bitcoin halving. Now, there's been a lot of up and down, but Bitcoin still is enjoying a lot of support at the $98,000 level as analyst eyes the RSI breakout. BTC price optimism says in place despite six-figure Bitcoin remaining out of reach. Bitcoin circled 98,000 into February 6th Wall Street open as traders flagged multiple bull signals. Traders reject bearish BTC price takes. Data from CoinGraph, Markets Pro, and TradingView showed consolidation taking over on BTC USD, which traded in a tight channel. While still unable to tackle the $100,000 mark, Bitcoin cooled volatility as market participants adopted a wait-and-see attitude. Higher low locking in, popular trader Jelly wrote in one of his latest posts on X. And we can kind of see that here. Fellow trader Dan Crypto Trades identifies spot market demand as a reason for optimism about BTC price trajectory. Manage 300 assets securely with Uphold innovative tools. We don't care about that. BTC trading at a pretty solid spot premium, showing there's plenty of spot demand around these levels, which have made it so Bitcoin has held strong during all the recent turbulence, he told his ex-followers. An accompanying chart demonstrates the derivatives traders' relatives cautious versus spot buyers. With spot ETFs and institutions like MicroStrategy accumulating coins at a rapid pace, there's a constant changing of hands going on, Dan Crypto creates adds. I think this should lead eventually to a supply dry up around this region and a move higher. Yeah, I've been calling for the supply shock for a long time. Another bullish event in the market in the making came courtesy of Bitcoin's relative strength index indicator on daily time frames. As highlighted by popular trader and analyst Rect Capital, daily RSI was forming a narrowing channel with a breakout anticipated in the future. Aside from Bitcoin's price action successfully retesting the blue trend line as support, the daily RSI is forming a distinctive channel, Rect Capital explained alongside the one-day BTC USD chart. RSI is holding support at the channel bottom in preparation for a rally at the top over time. And here we go with Rect Capital's chart. So it's holding the top and we're flipping down. My thought is there's a substantial amount of people flipping this thing day to day, week to week. And they're selling the top, buying the dip, selling the top, buying the dip, selling the top, buying the dip, selling the top, buying the dip. Which is a reasonable strategy. When you do that, you definitely are incurring costs, fees, and you definitely risk missing the boat altogether. And, trying to time the market can sometimes be quite a challenge. If you're only putting in a few bucks, sure, play the market, buy the dips. But if you're trying, if you've got a fair amount of money in there, HODLing is definitely a good way to go. And I'd probably recommend that for, 95% of the people out there. You don't want to get wrecked along with everybody else. You see that happening all the time. So play it cautious out there. Make sure you protect your investment because good things are coming, including payments, which people think don't exist for Bitcoin, but Bitcoin payments aren't the future. They are already here. Take a look at Breeze and A1AZ's latest report, deep diving into the current state of Bitcoin's use as a transactional payment mechanism. Breeze, in partnership with A1Z, has released a new report investigating the use of Bitcoin as a payment system and transactional currency. Bitcoin has always been painted as digital gold. That is one of the longest running narratives at this point in terms of what Bitcoin actually is. It does capture the use of a long-term investment or speculative asset and has been very helpful in aid into getting people over the first hump of basic understanding, but it is by no means a comprehensive explanation of what Bitcoin is. The report dives into multiple factors of Bitcoin's use as a payment mechanism. It dissects different use cases, regulatory treatments received in different jurisdictions, services and platforms with existing integration of Litecoin payments. Case studies are included looking at specific businesses and volume of transactions or user base that they have provided access to Bitcoin. For Mercari, a major Japanese marketplace similar to Amazon, accepts Bitcoin. Mullvad VPN, Namecheap, and Proton Mail are all instances of digital businesses benefiting from Bitcoin payments. While Bitcoin digital gold narrative is running strong, Bitcoin's use as a payment mechanism is growing quietly in the background. Storing value may be a necessary component of Bitcoin's use in commerce, but the ultimate purpose it was created for was to transact with. So, using it in conjunction with, for example, the Lightning wallet is very useful. So here we've got the chart increase in total average monthly customers paying with Bitcoin 23 to 2024, 287%. So people are starting to adopt Bitcoin as an actual currency, and I believe this includes both Lightning and Bitcoin, so pretty much up 300% year over year. Interesting about that. And there's definitely a big push to get Bitcoin more mainstream, like Cynthia Lummis is trying to do. The U.S. Senator encourages people to hold Bitcoin, and the article is asking, is a Bitcoin strategic reserve coming? Cool little photo they've got there. Cynthia Lummis, who is arguably the most vocal Bitcoin advocate in the U.S. Senate, has encouraged people to buy Bitcoin and hold it over the long term to protect themselves against the debasement of the U.S. dollar. Yeah, that's the same verbiage that I keep using, so good for her. I encourage people to buy and hold. I encourage them to save Bitcoin for their retirement, for their future, and that's because as the Congress spends trillions and trillions of dollars and is flooding our economy and the world economy with US dollars, there's no way that we can not debase the value of the US dollar. That is true. Senator Lummis is advocating for a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve with 1 million BTC. Senator Lummis has become increasingly prominent following Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. presidential election, as the Trump administration has taken a much more positive stance toward crypto assets than the Biden admin. On January 23rd, Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing a working group on digital asset markets, and one of his goals is to evaluate the feasibility of the United States establishing a national digital asset stockpile. According to Senator Lummis, the United States should establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve and acquire a total of 1 million BTC over a span of 5 years. The reserve should be held for a period of 20 years. Given the crypto-friendly administration of the U.S. and the increasing odds of countries adding Bitcoin to the reserves, it's no surprise that sentiment on Bitcoin's long-term prospects is at an all-time high. Recently, Standard & Chartered analyst Jeff Kendrick forecasted that Bitcoin could rise to 500,000 by the end of 2028, fueled by improvements to the accessibility of Bitcoin as an investment. Meanwhile, researchers using a flexible supply and demand equilibrium model suggested we could see Bitcoin trading as high as 1 million by mid-2028. The Bitcoin price prediction algorithm on CoinDesk is much more conservative, although it still forecasts a significant appreciation in the price of Bitcoin. According to that forecast, we'll have to wait until 2040 to see Bitcoin at the price of 1 million. So I feel like the Bitcoin is going to hit 1 million a lot more earlier than 2040. I feel like Some people are calling for it this cycle. I think if it doesn't happen this cycle, this halving cycle, it's definitely going to happen next halving cycle, not in 2030 or 2038 or 2040. We simply need a 10x from here, and considering Bitcoin is often doing 20x and 10x in between these cycles, in between the halving, I don't see things being that much different. The more it's pushed as a currency, the less volatile it's going to start to become. The more people use it as a currency, the less volatile it's going to become. Example being, you have $100 in your pocket in Bitcoin, and you want to go buy something that costs $100. By the time you get in the car, get to the store, and buy your item for $100, you want to know that your $100 is still going to buy you this item that you desire. If there's such volatility where you have your $100 in Bitcoin and you get to the store and your Bitcoin suddenly is worth $90, well, you can't purchase that anymore. Of course, there's the other side. You get in the car, you go to the store, and your Bitcoin's worth $120. However, traditionally and historically, for something to become a usable currency, it needs to be more stable. So I feel like these cycles, as the halving cycles continue, I've shown you guys before, and I believe you're all aware that every cycle, the amount of multiples that it increases is less and less every time. The first halving, it was 20x. The second halving was 9x or 8x. Then we had, I think it was a 6 or 7x. So I see this cycle being again, 5x, 4x, then the next cycle 2 or 3x, then 1x, then 0.5x, and then we get to the point where it is a stable, not a stable coin in the sense of it not being pegged to another currency like the US dollar, but in terms of the price stability being such that you can confidently use it as a currency and know that within a day or a week it's only up 1% or down 1% or 2%. And now if you look at valid currencies around the world, and I'm not talking about currencies that are hitting hyperinflation and are being debased in large ways by money printing, which all of them are. I'm referring more to stable currencies. We're talking the US dollar, the euro. These currencies aren't fluctuating every day. You can literally walk out. If you have $100, you can expect that tomorrow your $100 will buy you almost the same as what it did today. So at some point, we're going to see Bitcoin getting to that stage, and I would like to say that I want a 20x right now. I want a 100x right now, and we might see that with the nation-state adoptions and the sovereign wealth funds. But we might also see in the future a time where Bitcoin becomes very stable in its price and the volatility's gone. I like the volatility. I know for a fact that Bitcoin is going to continue going up through these cycles. So if you HODL throughout the cycles, you're going to gain. You're going to be up for sure. But at some point, for it to become a worldwide recognized currency that the banks are going to use as their reserve currency, because this is effectively the long-term outlook is exactly that. The banks can then use it as a settlement currency, a global settlement currency. It's not that they would be using Bitcoin for every transaction. Something else can be used for that. But when the transactions for the day are completed, let's say there's 1,000 international transactions for the day between, U.S. and France. So at the end of the day, the little payments will go through. Maybe they'll be using Lightning, or maybe they'll be using some other stable coin, but they will settle with Bitcoin. So what I mean by that is the banks will own 1,000 Bitcoins. There's 1,000 transactions worth 1 Bitcoin each. At the end of the day, instead of settling their transactions in the US dollar, which then takes multiple days for it to actually complete, they'll be settling these transactions with Bitcoin. That is ultimately where this is going. Now, I'm really hoping that we see some huge leaps and continue this volatility. I like the volatility. It means that you can still make a lot of money. Once things stabilize, then it's going to be more like investing in the dollar, and you're betting on the US dollar against the euro, and that if you make that kind of investment, you're going to have to wait often months or years to get some kind of return on your money. I feel like ultimately this is where it's heading. I'm very confident that that's the case. Now, in the midterm, we have all those other factors. We've got the geopolitical factors. We've got the acceptance of it. We have the naysayers. We have, the positive things about it. So we're going to see where it goes. For now, just HODL, keep buying the dip. If you want to do something inventive and, do some risks, only risk a small part of your money, guys. Risk 5%, 10%. And you know what? You should risk 5%, 10% and go with some of these little shit coins and see where it brings you. And you want to buy it and buy the dip and sell it on the high, and then buy the dip again and sell it on the high. And by all means, this is something you probably should be doing. If you want to get into all these little new meme coins, give it a shot. Some of them are up thousands of percent in one day, but do know that if it goes up, 1,000, 2,000, 30,000%, it's time to get out. Don't wait around, and this thing can happen. I've seen these percentages happen in minutes, not hours, not days, literally minutes. I've put in a bid, bought a new meme coin. It's gone up 3,000%. I've gone back to sleep, woken up an hour later, and it's, instead of it being up 3,000%, it's now down, 40%. So take a risk. I encourage you to do so, but only do it with 5% of your stash. Money that you don't care about losing. Money that is specifically there to take these big risks. This is something that any savvy investor does. They keep their main portfolio safe, a little volatility, of course, diversified, and then take a small percentage, this 5 or 10%, and take the huge risks. And sometimes it turns out that this small 5 or 10%, the risk money actually is what makes you your fortune. So best of luck there. Certainly feel free to add some comments or questions if you have anything to add. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, everybody, we're always talking about financial literacy here, and know that money is abundant and money is everywhere, and time is what's scarce, so spend your time wisely. Keep learning about basic economics, basic literacy, financial literacy. Spend less money than what you earn. If you start making more money, save more money. Don't start spending more money, and start saving when you're young. Start saving when you're 20, start saving when you're 18, and hopefully you can retire when you're 40 or 45. If you've got a great idea, jump right into it. Things will come together. Even if you're not ready, start today and only good things will happen. Hopefully you found this stream enjoyable, and if you did, please share, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next stream, folks.